Last week in round sailing, we continue the preparations for our long sail from Costa Rica to Hawaii. We saw more of Costa Rica and got an uninvited visitor on board. The big day had come. We were about to start our 4,100 nautical mile sail to Hawaii. Before leaving the marina, we went to the fuel dock to fuel up with diesel and gasoline.
So we're leaving Costa Rica for Hawaii. 4,100 nautical miles to go. And probably it will take us around 30 days, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more, but yeah, looks like we're going to have a week of really nice winds.
Wow, we have left land. We won't touch land again in like 30 days. It's a bit hard to imagine how that's gonna be. But we're both really excited and of course a little bit nervous. So, crossing fingers for good weather and just a nice and smooth sail to Hawaii. Right now there is no wind at all, so we are heading south now to go out from this and to round this peninsula of Papagayo, and then we will be like on open ocean, open water. Oh, last luxury from land. Johan bought us ice cream when he paid the fuel. Our diesel tank was more or less completely empty. We have used a lot coming up here. So now it's full, and we're full also on gasoline.
It'll be a while until we have something this cold again. So it's the first day. We're about 6 hours since we left the marina, and now the wind has picked up. We have 20 to 22 knots. The waves are pretty, not big, but they're steep. So the sailing is not very wet. We get some waves out of the boat. And I guess these winds that we get now is the strong winds that are over this lake north in Nicaragua, because we just passed one of the capes and the wind just picked up like that. So we actually have 2 reefs in the main, but we'll do 7.5 knots. I guess these winds are going to be with us the next, I don't know, 2 days maybe. These Papagayo winds. And the further out we come, they will die down a bit more. The wind should come down to maybe 15 knots. When the wind came, we first were close hauled, but now it seems that the wind is turning in our favor. So now we have a broad reach, which is nice.
I was pretty tired as my body was affected of the motion of the boat, and I rested most of the day. The first days are always the hardest, as your body and mind have to adjust to being at sea.
It's our second morning since we left Costa Rica, and as you can see, it's a lovely morning, and finally we have some good downwind sailing. Right now we have 13 knots apparent, 12 doing 5.5 knots of speed, and we're wing on wing.
Johan wrote down notes in the logbook after our first 24 hours at sea. And I took a refreshing shower.
Yesterday the wind died down a bit, so we had the motor for 6 hours, I think it was. But the whole day today we've been downwind, wing on wing, in about 15 to 20 knots of wind. So good sailing. I've been looking at the weather forecast, and it says that we're sailing in a small channel where there's still wind. And both south of us and north from us there's no wind at all. And this window, or it's a channel that we're sailing in, is slowly starting to die out. So we're in a little bit of a race to get around 250 miles further west before this narrow band of wind dies. Today we changed course a bit to 250 degrees, going a bit more to the south to try to find more stable winds down there. A direct route to Hawaii is around 280 degrees from where we are. I guess this area is a part of the intertropical convergence zone, and a lot of times there's really weak winds in this area. But this time of the year that shouldn't be the case. There should be pretty strong trade winds around here at this time of year in March.
It's our second night at sea, and now it's really smooth sailing. The wind came back and the waves came finally down. So now I have really smooth sailing with like 9 knots of wind only, but we're still doing over 5 knots of speed, which is great. So it's really nice and comfortable. The boat is very still. I can hear dolphins talking to each other outside. I'm sitting here down below, have my alarm set on 15 minutes, so every 15 minutes I go up and have a check, have a look around. These 2 days I've been super tired. The body adjusting to being at sea with the movement and being awake a lot during night. But it's slowly adjusting and getting better and easier.
I got a question the other day. Some guy was wondering why we're using a preventer when we're on a broad reach. Right now we're downwind, but we very often use a preventer also when we're broad reaching. The reason for that is to keep the boom stable, even if you maybe not are at a big risk to have an accidental jibe when you're broad reaching. If you have big waves that can rock the boat, that can be enough to move the boom over so it will hit you in the head. So it's just security. And another question was why we have two bow lines connected like this on the preventer. And the reason for that is that the line from the boom, the line from the end of the boom, when we don't use it, we just connect it up here in this rubber thing up here, this shock cord. So it's always under the boom, the preventer line. And then we have two preventer lines on deck, one on this side and one on the other side, and they go to these dedicated preventer winches that we have on deck. So for that we just tie a bow line to the already existing eye on the preventer line that's on the boom.
What's happening out here? The sun is getting lower. So we moved the head sail from the whisker pole that we had pulled out over to the port side because we now have a beam reach. It's really smooth sailing, so nice. What else? Well, we are making good progress west, and we looked earlier that we're really soon going to change the time, so we will, how do you say, go back 1 hour. When we reach Hawaii, we will in total take back the time 4 hours from when we were in Costa Rica.
Mashed potatoes. What do you call this?
Bean platters, vegetarian platters.
Call it that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's from chickpeas, some vegetarian meat.
Soya protein.
Soya meat. The winds today it's been good sailing almost the whole day. Before noon we were doing like 7.5 knots. Now we're down to 4, 5, but the wind has dropped to 8 or 9 knots now. How does it look?
Good. It's good, baby. Birds flew around the boat and checking it out, as if they were trying to find a good landing spot. He found a good landing platform.
Yeah. It took him like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times to try it out before he dared to land.
He was very curious.
Yeah. And he dove on the propeller for the towing generator. I don't know if he thinks it's a fish or something. Hello.
He's big.
Yeah.
So big. And look at those feet.
Yeah.
I bet he can swim very good.
Yeah. Don't eat on the panel.
Maybe he's tasting the salt.
Could be.
Yeah. So our first animal visit. You've seen dolphins. I haven't seen them. I've just heard them during the night from inside when they're swimming with the boat. The birds are invading us. But that doesn't look very comfortable. He's sitting on the sheet, which is moving all the time. Hur svimmet åt fåglarna? We're happy to offer a resting place for the birds.
Another fighting again. What's for dinner today?
Pasta carbonara. Gonna watch a movie as usual.
A lot of friends on the boat this morning. Yeah, finally the wind is back. We've been motoring a bit this last night, 4 or 5 hours. But now the wind is back, around 10 knots. We're doing 5.5. And yeah, we have a lot of birds on the boat. The whisker pole is not only good for poling out the sails.
We had entered a new time zone and we turned the clock 1 hour back.
It's a week since we left Costa Rica, and yeah, the sailing the last couple of days has been really slow, weak winds. But today, hopefully the trade winds has arrived. According to the forecast, the winds are going to be more stable from now on. We've been sailing, I don't know exactly, but a bit more than, yeah, close to 1100 nautical miles in a week. And I don't know, 1000 maybe, 1000. And yeah, we've been doing 25% of the leg to Hawaii. So we've been sailing for 8 days now. I was wrong earlier, it's not a week, it's 1 week and 1 day since we left Costa Rica. And the distance so far we've been sailing is 1036 nautical miles. And yeah, the average speed has been 5.4 knots. As you can see, we're still south of Mexico, so it's a pretty far distance out before you're leaving land. And Hawaii is way over here. We have about 3060 nautical miles to go to Hilo on Hawaii, big island. So this is the program for weather that we use, predict wind, and we use it together with an Iridium Go satellite phone to download these grid files into this map. There is also a route planning tool in here, and yeah, the good thing is that when you have many different models in here, types of grid files, you can see if they're consistent a bit easier with the routing tool, because you see if the computer tells you that all of these forecasts, the recommended route is to go in more or less the same direction. you get the feeling if the forecast is accurate. If there's a big difference, one forecast tells you to go south and one north, there's probably, the forecast is probably not very accurate. But right now, all of them, as you can see, all these 4 colors are more or less consistent in the direction we should go. So I think the winds are going to be more stable now. Because this is the area we've been struggling with the last couple of days up here north. And what's been happening now is that the winds in the Caribbean or in the Gulf has been getting stronger. So it fills in from the north up here in this gap up in, I guess, in the mountains here in Mexico. And that wind funnels through here and it turns, and that will push us out into the Pacific High, but it's out here somewhere. The red one here is 30 knots, green is 10 knots, yellow is 15. So right now we're in, according to the forecast, 11 to 12 knots, and real life is 13, so it's accurate. And the blue area up here, which we've been struggling with the last couple of days, is like calm area.
1 week at sea has gone by. I mean, it's been, I say, the first week is always a little bit rough. You have to get used to being out at sea, being on a boat that is moving all the time, and not sleep as you're used to. You're awake in shifts, and all the things that comes with being out at sea. The cooking, the hygiene, everything gets affected. And it takes a couple of days to get used to it. Depending on, of course, how the weather is, it can go faster or take longer time. I mean, first day was a little bit windy, quite big waves, but it's been much better the last couple of days, this first week. So I'd say now we're fully acclimatized to being out at sea. Feels good, no seasickness. I think when we've been out 3 weeks, like, you can kind of starting to calm down. But now there's no use for it, because you will just feel like that you just want to arrive, and we're far from arriving still. So just taking day by day as it is, and just enjoying being out at sea and moving our home to a new destination. Thank you for watching, and we hope you stay tuned for the coming episodes of our sail to Hawaii. If you enjoyed the video, we'd really appreciate a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to see more videos. See you next week.